The sun set on Earth's horizon, casting a golden glow over the bustling cities. Life was peaceful, normal even, on the small blue planet in the far corner of the galaxy. But that evening, everything was about to change. It began with a broadcast. A message appeared across every television screen, every news channel, and every computer device on Earth. It wasn't a familiar face, or even a familiar voice. The figure on the screen was tall and imposing, its skin a pale shade of green. His eyes, cold and calculating, scanned the world as if it were a mere insect to be crushed. He was the ambassador of the Galactic Dominion. People of Earth, the ambassador's voice boomed. You are being given an ultimatum. You will kneel before the might of the Galactic Dominion. You will submit to our rule and become part of our empire, or you will face complete destruction. The word hung in the air, as still and chilling as the cold winds that swept across Earth's continents. The camera zoomed in on the ambassador's sharp features, his expression a mixture of amusement and disdain. It was clear he expected a swift answer, one that would come from fear and helplessness. But the message was not just for Earth. It was for every other world in the Dominion's vast empire. A reminder of the absolute power they held. A signal to the conquered peoples that Earth's time had come. And yet there was something strange in the way the ambassador spoke, something that hinted he didn't expect resistance. After all, no world had ever fought back against the Dominion's rule. As the ambassador's face disappeared from the screen, Earth's leaders were thrown into disarray. Government officials, military commanders, and diplomats convened in a secret meeting. The world had just received its most difficult decision. How could they respond to such a demand? Could Earth, one small planet among countless others, really stand against an empire that had crushed civilizations for thousands of years? General William Harris, commander of Earth's joint military forces, stood in front of the council. His face was tense, his eyes locked in concentration. He had seen the power of the Dominion's warships before, during intelligence briefings and classified reports. He knew how terrifying their weapons were. But what really struck him was the arrogance in the ambassador's tone. It was as if they had already won. "We have no choice," General Harris said. "We cannot kneel. If we surrender, we lose everything. Our freedom, our sovereignty, everything we've built. The Dominion may have taken other worlds, but we are Earth. We fight, or we die." Across the room, the faces of the world leaders were grim. Some looked uncertain. Others, like President Elena Reyes, looked resolute. She knew that the future of the planet depended on the decision they would make in the next few minutes. "General Harris is right," President Reyes said, her voice steady. "We've never been in a war like this, but we've always fought to protect what's ours. We will refuse to kneel. But we must make it clear to the Dominion that Earth will not be a slave. We will fight, and we will do everything we can to survive." There were murmurs of agreement from the others in the room. There was fear, of course. Everyone knew the power of the Dominion. Their empire was vast, spanning thousands of star systems, each one controlled by their brutal methods. But Earth had something that the Dominion had never encountered before: the human spirit, the belief that freedom was worth fighting for, no matter the odds. The decision was made. Earth would not bow. It would not give in to the demands of the Galactic Dominion. "We'll send them our answer," President Reyes said. "We refuse to kneel. We'll fight for our freedom." With that, the meeting broke up and the leaders returned to their posts. The war to save Earth had just begun. Back in space, far beyond the reach of Earth's weapons, the ambassador of the Galactic Dominion looked down at his home planet's communication systems. He received Earth's response, a simple message that echoed the defiance of their leaders. "We refuse." The ambassador smiled. It was a smile that conveyed both amusement and an unsettling sense of power. He had underestimated Earth. But no matter. The Dominion was prepared for this. It would take more than a few strong words to stop their advance. Within moments, his fingers danced across the holographic console, sending orders to the fleet stationed near Earth. The first wave of ships, the ones that would crush humanity's resistance, would arrive within hours. But even as the ambassador looked out at the vastness of space, his mind couldn't shake the nagging feeling that Earth's answer wasn't just defiance. It was something else, something that would soon become very clear. The days following Earth's refusal were tense. Military bases across the planet worked day and night to prepare for the worst. Governments moved into high alert, knowing that the enemy was already on its way. People tried to go about their daily lives, but the weight of the situation hung over them like a dark cloud. The message from the Galactic Dominion was clear: submit or perish. Earth had chosen the latter. The first wave of Dominion ships arrived in Earth's orbit 3 days after the ultimatum was sent. They were massive, like floating cities in space, and they dwarfed any ship Earth had ever built. There were dozens of them, arranged in tight formation, their dark, angular shapes cutting through the emptiness of space with terrifying precision. The Dominion's warships were designed for one purpose: to crush anything that stood in their way. On Earth, the military's global defense system was put to the test. Satellites, missile silos, and fighter jets all lined up in preparation for the inevitable attack. The world held its breath. General Harris stood at the command center, his eyes fixed on the screens. The room buzzed with activity as soldiers and officers ran operations. Earth's weaponry was powerful, newer, faster, and more advanced than anything the world had seen before. But still, they were outmatched in sheer numbers. This would be the greatest challenge humanity had ever faced. Targeting systems online, a technician called out. "Weapons are ready," another officer reported. General Harris nodded, but the weight of responsibility was heavy. He knew that the fate of Earth depended on the success of this first line of defense. If they failed, the Dominion would sweep through Earth like a storm. The planet would be helpless. As the first Dominion ship fired its engines and entered Earth's atmosphere, an alarm blared across the command center. "Enemy ships are in range. All units, prepare to fire." The ground shook as missiles launched from Earth's defense silos, speeding toward the massive warships in space. The missiles were faster, more accurate, and more powerful than anything Earth had previously used in combat. They were a result of years of research and development, designed specifically for this moment. The first wave of missiles struck with a blinding flash. A massive explosion erupted from one of the Dominion ships, sending shockwaves through space. It wasn't enough to destroy the vessel entirely, but it was a significant blow. "We hit them," one officer shouted. General Harris felt a surge of hope. The fight was far from over, but this was a good sign. Humanity had struck first. Earth's defenses weren't as helpless as the Dominion had assumed. But the Dominion wasn't caught off guard for long. Their ships returned fire with powerful energy weapons. Beams of concentrated energy shot from the warships, tearing through Earth's defenses like paper. The first few waves of fighter jets were obliterated before they could even reach their targets. Satellite stations were destroyed in seconds. The power of the Dominion's technology was overwhelming. Still, Earth fought back. Fighters darted through the air, evading the enemy's fire with sharp turns and sudden maneuvers. Missiles streaked from the planet's surface, hitting their targets with precision. Earth's military wasn't just holding its ground, they were fighting with everything they had. The Dominion ships, though powerful, were not invincible. In one sector, a group of human pilots managed to take down another enemy ship. It wasn't an easy victory, but it sent a message. Earth was not going down without a fight. Meanwhile, back on Earth, President Rice watched the battle unfold from a secure command center. The weight of the decision to refuse the Dominion's demand had never felt so real. But seeing humanity stand strong in the face of such overwhelming power filled her with pride. She knew the Dominion was not used to resistance. Most planets submitted the moment they saw the fleet arrive. But not Earth. "Hold the line," she whispered to herself. The battle in space raged for hours, with Earth's defenses taking heavy losses. The Dominion, despite their superior firepower, could not crush Earth's resistance completely. Human ingenuity and determination were proving to be powerful assets. The first wave of attacks ended in a standoff, with both sides having suffered significant losses. However, Earth's victory came at a cost. The defense network was weakened, and several major cities experienced temporary power outages as a result of the damage. The first wave had been a success in terms of showing the Dominion that Earth wouldn't submit, but the enemy was far from finished. They had many more ships in reserve, and the next strike would be harder, more ruthless. General Harris looked at the screen where the damage reports were coming in. Earth had won the first battle, but the war had just begun. The Dominion would retaliate with even more force, and this time, humanity would have to be ready. But one thing was clear now: Earth would not kneel. And as long as they had breath in their lungs, they would continue to fight, to defend their planet from the empire that sought to enslave them. The first strike had ended, but the war had only just begun. After the fierce battle in space, Earth's military forces stood at a crossroads. The first wave of Dominion ships had been repelled, but humanity was still reeling from the loss of hundreds of soldiers, pilots, and military equipment. The battle had shown the world that Earth was capable of resisting the seemingly unstoppable Dominion, but the cost had been high. General Harris sat in the command center, staring at the damage reports that continued to flood in. He was tired, physically and emotionally drained, but he knew there was no time for rest. The Dominion would strike again, and this time, they would come with everything they had. "We've got some breathing room," an officer said, breaking the silence. "The enemy is regrouping, but they're not retreating. We need to act fast if we want to hold them off." Harris nodded. "They won't give up, but neither will we." Across the world, humanity was uniting like never before. Governments set aside differences, and people from all walks of life came together to prepare for the next wave. Earth had never faced an enemy like the Galactic Dominion, but humanity's spirit was stronger than any weapon they had faced so far. The first few weeks after the battle were filled with chaos. Earth's cities were on high alert, and everyday life was disrupted. Yet in the midst of all this, something remarkable began to happen. New alliances formed between different nations. Civilians volunteered to support the war effort in any way they could. Humanity, united by a common cause, was beginning to fight not just as individuals, but as one. President Reyes addressed the world through a broadcast, her voice steady despite the immense pressure she was under. "We've proven that we are not afraid. The Dominion thought we would submit. They were wrong. We will fight for our freedom, our homes, and our future." The speech was a rallying cry, and it sparked something deep within people across the globe. Hope, which had seemed fragile just days before, began to grow again. Every citizen, from the farmers in the fields to the engineers in the labs, knew their role in the fight for Earth's survival. But General Harris knew that hope alone wouldn't be enough. The Dominion had overwhelming power, and Earth's resources were limited. The warships they had destroyed were just the tip of the iceberg. They had only bought time, not victory. He gathered his top commanders for a strategy meeting. "We need to hit them where it hurts," he said. "The Dominion is strong, but we can outsmart them. We've got the element of surprise on our side." Harris outlined a risky but daring plan to launch a counterattack. The key was to target the Dominion's supply lines, destroying their ability to resupply their ships and maintain their forces. The Dominion might have the numbers, but if they couldn't keep their fleets supplied, they would be forced to retreat. The plan was bold, but it was Earth's best chance. Meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, the Dominion's fleet was regrouping. The ambassador, who had been overseeing the invasion from afar, was livid. Earth had caused more damage than expected, and the loss of several ships had thrown a wrench into their timeline. "They'd surprised us," the ambassador said, his voice cold and angry. "But we'll show them what happens when you defy the Dominion." The ambassador sent word to his superiors in the Dominion's Central Command. Earth had proven to be an unexpected challenge, but it was nothing compared to the might of the entire empire. Reinforcements were on their way. More ships, more weapons, and more power would soon arrive. But as the Dominion prepared its reinforcements, the tide of the war was quietly beginning to shift in Earth's favor. General Harris' plan was already in motion. A small, elite team of human soldiers and pilots embarked on a dangerous mission to infiltrate a key Dominion supply base located on one of the nearest moons. The team was made up of the best and the brightest, men and women who had volunteered to risk everything for the chance to strike a decisive blow against the invaders. The team moved in stealthily, using the cover of darkness to avoid detection. They sabotaged Dominion supply ships and set explosives in key locations. Their mission was not just about destruction. It was about sending a message. Earth was not defenseless. Earth would fight, and Earth would win. Back on Earth, President Reyes kept the world informed of their progress. The first successful strike against the Dominion supply lines was a victory that sent waves of hope throughout the planet. It wasn't the final blow, but it was a start. The Dominion was not invincible. They could be beaten. One battle at a time, General Harris reminded his officers as the reports came in. We fight smart, we fight together, and we fight for each other. Earth's strength is in its people. We will not be conquered. In the weeks that followed, Earth's military forces grew stronger, learning from every engagement. With every victory, the Dominion's grip on Earth seemed a little weaker. They might have had the power, but humanity had something they couldn't control: determination. And so, as the battle raged on, one thing became clear: Earth would not surrender. The Dominion had underestimated humanity, and now they would learn just how wrong they were. Earth's fight had only just begun, and the tide of the war was starting to turn. The war between Earth and the Dominion continued, but now, after months of fierce fighting, humanity had gained something that seemed almost impossible in the early days: momentum. Earth's forces had struck more blows against the Dominion supply lines, and despite their advanced technology, the Empire had begun to show signs of strain. General Harris stood at the command center once more, looking at the reports from the field. The situation was still dire, but Earth was no longer just surviving. They were beginning to push back. Small victories had turned into larger ones, and with every win, Earth's confidence grew. Another victory for Earth, an officer said, his face lit up with excitement. We've hit another supply base on the far side of their fleet. They won't be able to keep up this pace for much longer. Harris nodded, but he knew the fight wasn't over. Keep the pressure on them. We're not stopping until we drive them out of our skies. Meanwhile, on Earth's streets, people were more hopeful than ever. The war had brought hardship and loss, but it had also brought out the best in humanity. Civilians who once lived peaceful lives were now part of a worldwide effort to support the military. Volunteers filled the hospitals, engineers worked on new weapons, and even children, though too young to fight, helped in any way they could. Humanity has been through wars before, President Reyes had said in one of her recent speeches. But this time, we fight for the future of our planet, for our children, and for every person on Earth. Together, we will stand strong. And stand strong they did. The world was united in a way it had never been before. The borders between countries blurred as citizens rallied to support each other. Earth had become a single entity, determined to resist the Dominion at all costs. The Dominion, meanwhile, was growing increasingly frustrated. The ambassador, still overseeing the invasion from a command ship in deep space, watched the reports with growing anger. His once pristine plan to easily conquer Earth was now in tatters. Their supply lines were strained, and the human resistance had grown far more organized than he had expected. They should have been weaker by now, the ambassador growled, slamming his fist against the table. They should have been on their knees begging for mercy. His superior officer, a cold, calculating commander from the Dominion's Central Fleet, looked at the ambassador with a disapproving expression. Underestimating Earth was a mistake, he said. We've lost too much, but we have reinforcements on the way. Soon, The full power of the Dominion will crush these rebels once and for all. The ambassador's expression darkened. He had heard the same thing before. Earth had proven to be resilient beyond belief, and every delay only gave humanity more time to prepare. Still, he knew the Dominion's power was vast. The Empire had fleets of ships waiting to be deployed, and Earth's defenses could only hold for so long. Back on Earth, General Harris and his team were readying for their next big operation. They had learned from each engagement, constantly adapting their strategies to stay one step ahead of the Dominion. The plan this time was more ambitious. Earth's forces would strike at the heart of the Dominion's command fleet. If they could cripple the leadership of the Empire, perhaps the Dominion would retreat, or at the very least, be forced to negotiate. "We hit them fast and hard," Harris said, briefing his officers. "We've got one chance to do this right. We're going to catch them off guard, hit their command ships, and disable their communication systems. If we can do that, we'll throw them into chaos." It was a risky move, but Harris knew that it was the only option if Earth was going to stay ahead. The Dominion's fleet was huge, but their leadership was centralized. A strike at their command center could turn the tide of the entire war. The mission would require stealth, precision, and a team of Earth's best soldiers. Harris chose a group of elite operatives who had proven themselves in previous battles. They would infiltrate the Dominion's fleet, sabotage their communication systems, and disable their ability to coordinate their forces. The team was prepared, but everyone knew the risks. They would be outnumbered and outgunned, but they had something the Dominion didn't: the drive to protect their world. As the mission began, the first signs of success came swiftly. The team moved through the enemy fleet with the skill of shadows, taking out one Dominion ship after another without raising alarms. Earth's forces in space provided cover, distracting the Dominion long enough for the operatives to slip past their defenses. In the midst of the operation, however, things started to go wrong. A Dominion patrol ship spotted them. The operatives had no choice but to fight their way through. They were heavily outnumbered, but they fought with the determination of people who knew that failure was not an option. "Keep pushing," shouted Captain Diaz, leading the charge. "We can't afford to fail." Explosions rang out as the team fought their way toward their target. They were determined to finish the mission, knowing that the survival of Earth depended on it. Back at the command center, General Harris watched the situation unfold. "We can't lose them now," he muttered. "Come on, stay with it." The hours passed in tense silence, each minute bringing the team closer to their goal. But just when it seemed like the mission might be doomed, the reports came in. "We've done it," one of the operatives radioed. "The Dominion's communications are down. They're in chaos." The mission had been a success. The Dominion was disoriented, and for the first time, it seemed like they weren't invincible. General Harris allowed himself a rare smile. The tide was truly beginning to turn, and Earth's fight for freedom was more powerful than ever. The strike against the Dominion's command fleet had been a turning point for humanity. Earth's forces, with their bold tactics and unwavering resolve, had done the impossible. The Dominion, a galaxy-spanning empire that had once seemed invincible, was now in chaos. Their communication systems were crippled, their leadership disoriented, and their ability to coordinate massive operations shattered. General Harris stood in the command center, watching as reports flooded in. The Dominion's response had been swift, but disorganized. They were scrambling, trying to regroup and reestablish control, but Earth had the upper hand for the first time in months. "We've done it," Harris said to his officers. "We've struck a blow they can't ignore." The mood in the room was one of cautious optimism. Earth's forces had gained a significant advantage, but there was still a long road ahead. The Dominion wasn't known for backing down easily, and they had vast resources to call upon. But for the first time since the war began, it seemed like victory was within reach. Meanwhile, across the planet, people were starting to believe in that victory. News of the successful strike against the Dominion spread like wildfire. From the cities to the countryside, Earth's citizens celebrated. The thought of beating the empire that had once seemed unstoppable filled everyone with a sense of pride and unity. "We've shown them what we can do," President Reyes said in her latest address to the world. "We've fought back, and we've won. But this is only the beginning. We must stay strong, stay united. The Dominion will come at us harder than ever, and we must be ready." Her words resonated with millions. The battle for Earth was far from over, but humanity was no longer the underdog. They had proven that they could stand toe-to-toe with one of the most powerful empires in the galaxy, and that knowledge gave them strength. However, the Dominion's counterattack was already in motion. Reinforcements had been dispatched from the Empire's core systems, and new, more powerful warships were heading towards Earth's space defenses. The ambassador, still enraged by the setback, had not given up on his mission to conquer Earth. He was more determined than ever to bring the rebellious planet to its knees. "Send everything we have," the ambassador ordered, his voice icy. "This time, we will crush them." As the days passed, the Dominion's reinforcements arrived, and the battle for control of Earth's skies intensified. The Dominion's new fleet was vast, its ships larger and more advanced than anything humanity had encountered before. But Earth was not without its own advancements. In the months since the war began, human engineers had been working tirelessly to develop new weapons and defenses. They had learned from their early mistakes, and now they were ready to face the Dominion head-on. General Harris knew that the next few weeks would be critical. The Dominion would not give up easily, and their new fleet would test Earth's defenses like never before. But Harris was not afraid. The people of Earth had proven their strength. The soldiers and pilots had proven their courage. And now it was time to show the Dominion that Earth would not be defeated. "We will fight with everything we have," Harris said in a meeting with his top commanders. "We've come this far, and we won't back down now. The Dominion thinks they can intimidate us, but they're wrong. We are Earth, and we fight to protect our future." The battle that followed was the fiercest yet. The Dominion's new fleet, with its advanced technology and overwhelming numbers, pressed hard against Earth's defenses. But Earth's forces were not easily overwhelmed. The human spirit, fueled by determination and a deep desire to protect their home, was more powerful than any weapon the Dominion had brought to bear. The skies over Earth were filled with the flashing lights of combat. Fighters from both sides swarmed through space, dodging blasts and launching missiles. Each side suffered losses, but the battle raged on. In the heat of the conflict, a breakthrough came. Earth's engineers had developed a new type of weapon, one that could pierce through the Dominion's advanced shields. It was a gamble, but General Harris knew it was their best shot at turning the tide of the battle. A group of elite pilots, led by Captain Diaz, took to the skies with the new weapon. They flew deep into the heart of the Dominion's fleet, evading enemy fire as they closed in on their target. The Dominion's flagship, the heart of their operations. As they approached the massive ship, Diaz and his team were met with a storm of enemy fire. The air around them crackled with energy as blasts from Dominion weapons zipped past their ships. But the pilots held their nerve, pushing through the chaos and delivering a devastating blow to the flagship's core. The weapon struck with pinpoint accuracy, and the flagship exploded in a massive burst of light. The shockwave rippled through space, shaking the entire battlefield. For a moment, the Dominion's fleet faltered, their forces thrown into disarray. General Harris watched from the command center, his eyes wide with disbelief. "Did we just?" "We did," one of his officers replied. "The flagship is gone. Their command structure is crippled." The Dominion's fleet began to retreat, their ships scattering in all directions. Earth's forces, emboldened by the loss of the enemy's central command, pressed forward, attacking with renewed vigor. The tide of the battle had turned, and for the first time, Earth's forces were in full control. Victory was within reach, but Harris knew the fight was far from over. The Dominion would regroup, and they would try again. But for now, Earth had won a decisive victory, one that sent a clear message to the galaxy. Humanity was not a force to be underestimated, and as long as they had the will to fight, they would never be defeated. After the destruction of the Dominion flagship, Earth's forces felt a brief moment of triumph. The skies were quiet for the first time in months. It seemed like the battle had been won, but General Harris knew better. This was just one victory in a much larger war. The Dominion was not a force that would be easily defeated. Their empire stretched across countless systems, and their resources were practically limitless. The ambassador, still seething from the loss of his flagship, would no doubt be plotting the next stage of the war. Harris couldn't afford to let his guard down. The next few days were spent strengthening Earth's defenses. New technology and weapons had been developed, and now the challenge was making sure they were ready for the inevitable retaliation from the Dominion. Earth's engineers and scientists worked around the clock, testing and refining their new creations. The human spirit, already hardened by the years of struggle, had only grown stronger in the face of adversity. Meanwhile, Earth's civilians did their part as well. Across the globe, factories were ramping up production to support the war effort. Young and old alike contributed in whatever way they could. Some enlisted in the military, others worked to build supplies, and many sent messages of hope and encouragement to the soldiers on the front lines. In the capital, President Reyes addressed the world, her words a call to arms and unity. "We have won a great victory," she said, "but this is far from over. The Dominion will not rest until they have destroyed us. We must stand together, united as one, and show them that Earth will never kneel." Her speech was broadcast across the planet, and it filled people with a renewed sense of purpose. Earth had come together in a way that no one had expected, and the resolve of the people was as strong as ever. As the days passed, Earth's military continued to prepare for the next phase of the conflict. The Dominion's response, however, came sooner than expected. The Empire had regrouped quickly, drawing on reinforcements from every corner of their vast empire. They were not done, and their new fleet was more formidable than anything Earth had ever seen. The ambassador, in a move that shocked even his own commanders, made a direct threat to Earth. He called for the total surrender of Earth, giving them one final chance to submit to the will of the Dominion. "You have tasted victory, but it was a fleeting moment," he declared. "The true power of the Dominion will soon be upon you. Surrender now, and you may be spared the consequences of your defiance." But President Reyes, undeterred, responded with a defiant message of her own. "We will not bow to threats," she said. "Earth is not a planet to be ruled. We will fight to the very end, and we will never surrender." The message was heard loud and clear across the galaxy. The Dominion had underestimated humanity's resolve, and now they would face the full force of Earth's might. The battle that followed was unlike any before. The Dominion's new fleet, led by the ambassador himself, arrived in Earth's orbit with terrifying speed. Their warships, massive and heavily armed, seemed unstoppable. They filled the sky, casting long shadows over the planet below. But Earth's forces were ready. General Harris had gathered the best of humanity's military forces and organized them into a united front. Each ship, each soldier, each fighter was a symbol of Earth's resistance. The Dominion would learn that humanity was not easily crushed. The battle began in earnest, and it was a fierce contest. The Dominion's fleet was formidable, but Earth's forces had something the Dominion could not replicate: the strength of their will. The fighters in the air and the soldiers on the ground fought with a passion born of desperation and hope. They were fighting for their families, for their homes, and for their future. Captain Diaz, leading a group of elite pilots, engaged in high-speed dogfights with the Dominion ships. The sky was filled with streaks of light as lasers and missiles flew in every direction. Diaz's squadron darted between enemy ships, evading their attacks with skill and precision. Every move they made was calculated, every strike made with purpose. They were determined not to let Earth fall. On the ground, Earth's forces fought fiercely to protect their cities and their people. Soldiers engaged in intense combat with Dominion forces, pushing them back step by step. The Dominion soldiers were well trained, but they were not prepared for the relentless determination of Earth's defenders. The tide of the battle slowly began to shift. As the Dominion ships fell one by one, their forces began to retreat. The ambassador, realizing the situation was slipping out of his control, ordered a full withdrawal. But it was too late. Earth's forces were already pushing forward, relentless in their pursuit. In the heart of the conflict, General Harris received a message from President Reyes. "We've done it," she said. "The Dominion is retreating. Earth has stood strong, and we will not be broken." But Harris knew this victory, like the last, was just a step in a much larger journey. The Dominion would regroup, and they would return. The war was far from over, and Earth's forces had to be ready for whatever came next. But for now, Earth had won another hard-fought victory. The Dominion had been forced to retreat, and humanity had proven once again that they would not needle. They would fight, and they would win. The strength of the human spirit had become a force the galaxy could no longer ignore. The war was not over, but Earth had taken a decisive step towards securing its future. The retreat of the Dominion forces had come as a shock to many, but for General Harris, it was a moment of cautious optimism. He knew the ambassador and his empire were not ones to accept defeat easily. There would be more battles, more challenges ahead. But for now, Earth had made its stand, and it had made it clear that it would never kneel. In the days that followed, Earth's leaders gathered to discuss what would come next. President Reyes called for a summit, inviting representatives from across the globe to join forces in shaping a new strategy. The people of Earth had shown their strength, but now it was time to secure their place in the galaxy. "We have proven that we will fight for our survival," President Reyes addressed the assembly. "But we must also plan for the future. The Dominion will not give up. We need to be ready for what comes next." The summit was filled with discussions about defense strategies, technological advancements, and the creation of alliances with other alien races. Earth's victory had sent ripples throughout the galaxy. The Dominion may have been forced to retreat, but their grip on many systems remained firm. President Reyes knew that Earth could not stand alone. To ensure the survival of the human race, alliances needed to be forged with other species, especially those who had once been under the rule of the Dominion. One of the most important agreements came from the Andromeda Alliance, a group of smaller alien civilizations who had been oppressed by the Dominion for centuries. They saw Earth's victory as a sign of hope, and they offered their support in the form of both military assistance and shared technology. This was a huge turning point. Earth was no longer isolated. It was now part of a growing coalition of independent worlds. Captain Diaz, now regarded as a hero across Earth, took part in the discussions as well. He had seen the horrors of war firsthand, but he had also seen the incredible strength and unity of Earth's people. He knew that to maintain peace, humanity would have to stay united. "It's not just about winning battles," Captain Diaz said. "It's about keeping the peace. We fought for our survival, but we need to work together with others. This is the beginning of a new era. We can't let fear or hatred guide us. We must build trust and cooperation." His words resonated with the assembly. Earth was no longer just a planet fighting for its life. It was becoming a beacon of hope and unity in the galaxy. The people of Earth had not only resisted the Dominion, they had inspired others to rise up against their oppressors. The galaxy was beginning to take notice of humanity's strength. As the summit came to a close, President Reyes stood before the assembly. "We faced the darkness, and we've come out stronger. But now is the time for us to forge a new path forward, a path of peace, collaboration, and strength. Let's show the galaxy that Earth's future is one of hope, not fear." The ambassadors from the Andromeda Alliance stood in support, pledging to work together with Earth to rebuild and protect the galaxy. With their help, Earth began to send out peacekeepers to systems still under the control of the Dominion. The humans had become more than just survivors. They were now protectors of freedom. Back on Earth, the people continued to rebuild their cities, their homes, and their lives. The scars of war were still visible, but there was a renewed sense of hope in the air. Families reunited, and the next generation grew up knowing that they had inherited a world that had fought against the odds and had won. It was a new beginning, not just for Earth, but for the entire galaxy. General Harris stood on the balcony of the newly built command center, looking out over the bustling city below. The skies were clear, the sun shining brightly. For the first time in years, he allowed himself to smile. Earth had survived. They had made it through the darkest of times, and they had emerged stronger than ever before. As he gazed into the horizon, he thought about the future, about the new alliances Earth had forged and the challenges that lay ahead. The road to peace would not be easy, but it was a road they were willing to walk. Together, Earth and its new allies would continue to defend the freedom they had fought so hard to protect. Humanity's strength is in its unity, Harris whispered to himself, and we will stand strong, no matter what comes next. The war with the Dominion was over, but Earth's place in the galaxy was just beginning. As the sun set over the horizon, a new dawn had arrived, a dawn of peace, hope, and endless possibilities, and humanity was ready to meet it head-on.